Megan Harrison had always dreamed of owning a home with a pool, a sanctuary where she could unwind after long days at work. After years of saving, she finally purchased a charming two-story house in Maplewood Estates, a community well known for its picturesque surroundings and tightly knit atmosphere. The pride she felt upon signing the deed was palpable, especially knowing that her backyard would feature the sparkling oasis she had envisioned for so long. As an accountant by trade, Megan valued structure and order in both her professional and personal life. This appreciation extended to the Homeowners Association, HOA, that governed Maplewood Estates, which promised to maintain property values and create harmonious living conditions for all residents. She admired the rules that helped keep the neighborhood pristine, from lawn care standards to guidelines on exterior paint colors. However, she also cherished her independence and viewed her private pool as a personal retreat, an extension of her freedom within the confines of HOA regulations. Megan spent countless weekends transforming her backyard into a serene escape, complete with vibrant landscaping and comfortable patio furniture. Her pool was not just a place to cool off, it represented her hard work and dedication to crafting her ideal home. Little did she know that this sanctuary would soon become the center of an unexpected conflict, setting the stage for a showdown between her individual rights and the HOA's authority, ignited by none other than Karen, the self-appointed enforcer of community rules. In Maplewood Estates, the Homeowners Association, HOA, played a pivotal role in shaping the community's character and ensuring that residents adhered to standards designed to maintain property values. Established with good intentions, the HOA was responsible for implementing and enforcing rules that governed everything from landscaping choices to exterior paint colors. These regulations aimed to foster a sense of unity while enhancing the neighborhood's aesthetic appeal. Residents were required to pay monthly dues that funded community amenities, maintenance, and various improvements. This financial commitment was expected in return for a beautifully maintained environment, benefiting all homeowners. Regular newsletters outlined important updates, reminding residents of upcoming meetings and reinforcing the importance of compliance with established guidelines. Megan appreciated these efforts initially, believing they contributed to an orderly and welcoming atmosphere. However, as much as the HOA worked to create harmony, it also imposed certain restrictions that could sometimes feel intrusive. Homeowners often felt the weight of compliance pressing down on their personal desires. For instance, while pools were allowed, they were subject to specific regulations regarding installation methods and safety measures. These stipulations were designed to avoid potential hazards and ensure uniformity within the community. As one of the newer residents, Megan took pride in her adherence to these regulations while reveling in her personal oasis. The balance between maintaining HOA standards and preserving individual freedoms often teetered precariously. Little did she realize that this balance might soon be tested by Karen's rigid interpretation of what it meant to be part of their community, igniting a clash between their distinct visions for private property rights. In Maplewood Estates, the figure known as HOA Karen was both notorious and polarizing. With her perfectly coiffed hair and a penchant for brightly colored blazers, she embodied the archetypal busybody, always on the lookout for any perceived deviations from the community's rules. As a long-standing member of the HOA board, Karen firmly believed that her role was not just to uphold regulations but to act as the moral compass for the neighborhood. Her motivations were rooted in a deep-seated desire for order and perfection, often leading her to take things to the extreme. Karen's personality was a mix of unyielding authority and an insatiable need for control, resulting in a reputation as someone who would not hesitate to confront residents over minor infractions. She prided herself on her knowledge of the HOA rules, often quoting them verbatim to assert her dominance when interacting with neighbors. For her, ensuring compliance wasn't merely a job, it was a personal mission fueled by an obsession with maintaining the neighborhood's image. Though some residents respected her commitment, others found her overbearing nature stifling. A childhood spent in a strict household shaped Karen's worldview. She equated freedom with chaos and felt it was her duty to impose structure. Thus, when Megan's pool came under scrutiny, Karen viewed it as an opportunity to assert her influence, believing wholeheartedly that every homeowner should conform to her vision of an ideal community. Unbeknownst to Megan, her private retreat would soon become the battleground in Karen's quest for control. It was a bright Saturday morning when Megan decided to host a small gathering by her pool, a blissful escape where she could unwind with friends and enjoy the sunshine. As laughter and the sound of splashing water filled the air, everything seemed perfect, until Karen appeared unannounced, her expression a mix of disapproval and indignation. With hands firmly planted on her hips, Karen approached the pool area, her bright blazer standing out against the vibrant greenery of Megan's backyard. "This is unacceptable," she declared, her tone sharp and authoritative. Megan's heart sank as she tried to process the intrusion. "What do you mean?" she replied, confusion etching her features. Karen wasted no time in laying out her claims. "This pool should be accessible to all residents. It's against HOA rules for one homeowner to keep such a facility private." She gestured dramatically toward the gathering, emphasizing her point as if trying to rally support from the onlookers. Megan felt a wave of disbelief wash over her. She had never heard of such a regulation. "I've put in a lot of time and effort into this space," Megan countered, hoping to appeal to reason. However, Karen was undeterred. "Your enjoyment shouldn't come at the expense of others," she insisted, standing firm in her belief that community access trumped personal enjoyment. The encounter escalated quickly, with emotions running high as Megan defended her rights while Karen remained steadfast in her interpretation of the rules, setting the stage for an imminent clash between them. Feeling the weight of Karen's accusations, Megan took a deep breath, trying to remain calm amidst the chaos. "I've followed all the HOA guidelines for my pool," she said, her voice steady but edged with frustration. "There's no rule that states it has to be open to everyone in the community." Karen, however, was unfazed. She crossed her arms defiantly and replied, "Rules are meant to ensure fairness among residents. You can't just enjoy all that luxury while others have nothing." Her tone dripped with authority as she looked around at the onlookers, who were starting to murmur among themselves. Megan felt her anger building. This wasn't just about the pool, it was about her right to enjoy her home without harassment. "This is not a public facility. I put my money and effort into making this space welcoming only for myself and my guests," she retorted, her hands clenched by her sides as she struggled to keep her emotions in check. Karen continued pressing her point, citing vague HOA regulations that seemed more like personal interpretations than actual rules. The gathering grew tense as neighbors began to take sides. Some whispered in agreement with Karen while others defended Megan's right to privacy. As their exchange escalated into a heated argument filled with raised voices, Megan realized this confrontation wouldn't resolve itself easily. Frustrated and desperate to end the scene being created at her home, she watched as Karen reached for her phone, dialing what Megan dreaded might be an unnecessary summon of police. As the argument reached a fever pitch, Karen's determination crystallized into action. With a flicker of defiance in her eyes, she pulled out her phone, her fingers hovering over the screen as if she were about to send a message to the community itself. "I'm calling 911, she declared loudly, her voice cutting through the chaos like a knife. The gathering of neighbors fell silent, shock rippling through them as they processed her decision. Megan's heart raced at the thought of police involvement. "You can't be serious," she exclaimed, disbelief coloring her tone. But Karen was already dialing, her focus unwavering as she spoke to the operator with an air of authority that suggested she believed every word. "Yes, I need to report a violation of Homeowners Association regulations," Karen stated firmly, as if reading from a script. "A homeowner is keeping a private pool that should be accessible to all residents." Megan felt her anger boil over. This was no longer just an argument but an attack on her rights as a homeowner. She could see Karen's face light up with self-satisfaction, convinced that she was safeguarding the community's integrity. As Karen continued outlining her version of events to the operator, Megan tried to make sense of how it had come to this, a simple disagreement spiraling into an emergency call. The tension among the onlookers thickened, some exchanged worried glances while others seemed to rally behind Karen's crusade for what she deemed fairness. In that moment, Megan realized this conflict had escalated beyond mere words and would require more than just dialogue to resolve. The sound of sirens pierced the air, cutting through the tension that had thickened around Megan's backyard. As two police cars pulled up, their lights flashing brightly, a sense of dread washed over Megan. She stood there, arms crossed, feeling exposed as the officers stepped out and surveyed the scene. Karen, on the other hand, straightened her posture, ready to unleash her carefully crafted narrative. "Officers!" Karen called, her voice dripping with self-importance as she approached them with an air of authority. "I'm so glad you're here. This homeowner is violating HOA regulations by keeping her pool private. It should be open to the community." She gestured toward Megan's pool as if it were a criminal exhibit, the enthusiasm in her tone suggesting she felt vindicated. The officers exchanged glances before one approached Megan, his expression neutral but inquisitive. "Can you tell us what happened here?" he asked, his voice calm and reassuring amidst the chaos. Megan felt a knot tighten in her stomach as she began explaining the situation, emphasizing that the pool was indeed her private property and she had adhered to all regulations. But each word seemed to dissolve into the background noise of Karen's insistent claims. Meanwhile, Karen interjected at every opportunity, trying to steer the conversation in her favor. "You see, officers, this is exactly what I'm talking about, residents flaunting the rules without regard for their neighbors," she continued, her determination unwavering. The atmosphere had shifted. What had begun as a fun gathering had now morphed into an uneasy standoff between personal rights and community enforcement, leaving Megan feeling increasingly cornered by both Karen's relentless accusations and the authority of the law. The officers approached the scene with professionalism, assessing the situation while keeping their demeanor calm. One officer, Officer Ramirez, directed his attention first to Karen, who eagerly launched into her narrative about the alleged HOA violations. She asserted that Megan was unlawfully restricting access to a community amenity and cited her understanding of the HOA rules as the basis for her claims. The second officer, Officer Green, turned to Megan, who was still reeling from the shock of being in this predicament. "Can you explain your side of the story?" he asked gently, his tone suggesting he understood the stress of the situation. Megan took a deep breath and clarified that her pool was private property and that she had followed all HOA regulations when installing it. She mentioned that she had even received approval from the HOA prior to its construction. As they listened to both sides, the officers took notes and asked pointed questions about any written guidelines from the HOA regarding pool usage. Karen produced a copy of what she claimed were relevant HOA rules but struggled to find specific regulations addressing private versus community access. After gathering information from both parties, Officer Ramirez conferred with his partner before stepping away briefly to discuss their findings. Meanwhile, Karen continued to voice her frustrations, insisting that Megan's interpretation was flawed and urging them to take action against what she perceived as blatant defiance. When the officers returned, they informed both women that they would not be enforcing any penalties at this time. Instead, they suggested that Megan seek clarification from the HOA regarding her rights as a homeowner and recommended a peaceful resolution through dialogue rather than confrontation. This response left Karen fuming while Megan felt a small sense of relief wash over her, at least for now. As the tension in Megan's backyard began to dissipate following the police officer's departure, the neighbors lingered, their reactions illuminating the nuanced dynamics of the community. Some residents, initially drawn by the commotion, whispered amongst themselves, casting sympathetic glances at Megan, who had fought to defend her rights as a homeowner. They expressed disbelief at Karen's aggressive tactics, questioning whether such an extreme response was warranted over a private pool. "Can you believe she called the cops?" one neighbor murmured to another, shaking his head. "That's just going too far." Others nodded in agreement, silently showing support for Megan and her right to enjoy her property free from unwarranted interference. Yet not all reactions were supportive. A small but vocal group sided with Karen, expressing concerns about fairness and community spirit. "It's important for all residents to have access to amenities," one woman argued, defending Karen's actions. "This isn't just about one person's enjoyment, it's about keeping the neighborhood together." Her comments sparked a debate among those present, highlighting a rift in opinions that had been simmering beneath the surface of Maplewood Estates. As conversations thrummed with mixed emotions, some advocating for individual rights while others emphasized communal solidarity, Megan felt increasingly isolated in the aftermath of the confrontation. She understood that Karen's reign as self-appointed enforcer had deeper roots in the community, revealing how differing interpretations of strength and authority could stir both division and solidarity within their closely knit neighborhood. The atmosphere remained charged, indicating that this incident would not be forgotten quickly and would likely influence future interactions among neighbors. In the days following the confrontation, the tension in Maplewood Estates lingered like a heavy fog, prompting the HOA board to take action. Recognizing the rift that had developed within their community, they scheduled a mediation session aimed at addressing both Megan's and Karen's concerns. Notices were sent out to residents, urging them to attend and participate in a dialogue about community standards and individual rights. On the day of the meeting, attendees gathered in the community center, a neutral ground adorned with posters promoting unity and cooperation. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation as both sides prepared to present their views. Megan arrived armed with documentation proving her adherence to HOA regulations regarding her pool, ready to defend her rights while hoping for a collaborative solution. Karen also came prepared, equipped with her own interpretation of the HOA rules and a firm belief that she was acting in the community's best interest by advocating for unrestricted access. As discussions commenced, both women voiced their perspectives, Megan emphasizing her right to enjoy her private property without intrusion and Karen making her case for fairness among residents. The HOA mediator facilitated the conversation skillfully, allowing each party to express their views while guiding them toward understanding common goals. After much debate and reflection on shared values, an agreement began to take shape. Megan would offer occasional community swim days at her pool, while Karen agreed to temper her enforcement efforts moving forward. This compromise fostered a renewed sense of camaraderie among neighbors as they left the meeting room, signaling a potential pathway toward healing and collaboration in Maplewood Estates. The resolution not only eased tensions but also highlighted the importance of balancing individual freedoms with community ideals, an ongoing journey for their tight-knit neighborhood. The unfolding conflict between Megan and Karen in Maplewood Estates served as a microcosm of broader themes concerning community governance and individual rights. On one hand, the HOA's intent to maintain property values and communal harmony is crucial for preserving the character of the neighborhood. However, this comes at the potential cost of individual freedoms, highlighting the delicate balance that must be struck between enforcing regulations and respecting personal space. Megan's experience illustrated the frustration that homeowners can feel when their autonomy is perceived to be encroached upon. While she understood the importance of HOA rules, the extreme measures taken by Karen to enforce them felt unjust and overreaching. It became clear that having a self-appointed enforcer without checks could lead to an environment of fear rather than camaraderie. Conversely, Karen's actions demonstrated the risks of interpreting community standards too rigidly. Her obsession with maintaining order overshadowed her ability to foster genuine community relations, alienating otherwise supportive neighbors. The mediation process revealed that dialogue is essential in finding common ground, a lesson that echoed through the community as members recognized the importance of communication over confrontation. As a result, both Megan and the HOA members emerged with valuable insights. Megan learned to navigate her rights while considering the collective good, and Karen realized that advocacy for community standards should involve collaboration rather than conflict. The resolution underscored the necessity of cooperation, encouraging residents to establish a relationship built on mutual respect and understanding, ultimately reflecting a healthier approach to living within a governed community. In the aftermath of the intense confrontation, Megan reflected on the experience with a mix of relief and resolve. The mediation session had not only eased immediate tensions but also provided her with valuable insights into the complexities of community living. She felt empowered by her ability to stand up for her rights and appreciated that a compromise had been reached, allowing for both personal enjoyment and community engagement. Looking ahead, Megan planned to continue fostering positive relationships with her neighbors, especially after committing to host occasional community swim days. She hoped these gatherings would serve as a bridge between individual freedoms and shared responsibilities, helping to mend any remaining fissures in neighborhood relations. The experience had taught her that collaboration was essential in navigating the delicate balance between personal space and communal interests. Meanwhile, she recognized that Karen's approach stemmed from a genuine desire to maintain order and fairness within Maplewood Estates, even if it sometimes manifested in overreaching actions. With time, Megan believed there might be opportunities for more constructive dialogue with Karen, potentially transforming their contentious relationship into one based on mutual respect. As she lounged by her pool on a sunny afternoon, Megan felt a renewed sense of belonging in Maplewood Estates. The struggle had underscored the importance of active participation in community governance, both advocating for individual rights and recognizing the value of collective harmony. Moving forward, she was determined to engage more deeply with her HOA and neighbors alike, hoping this experience would ultimately contribute to a stronger, more unified community atmosphere.